Welcome, entrepreneurs. I'm Ann Kay on my lifelong quest, Escaping Ordinary. Join me as I interview wildly successful and rising entrepreneurs that value travel as an essential influence in their outlook and mindset, and how it helps them live happy, fulfilling lives, build successful businesses, and craft their own extraordinary lives. I'm Ann Kay, and this is Escaping Ordinary. I am really stoked to chat with my dear friend Sheldon Sonnenberg today about becoming the CEO of your own health. But first, if you missed my last episode of Escaping Ordinary, you really need to go back and check out my enthusiastic interview with Chantel Turner, where she discusses her exclusive new program, Notable Leader Army. Today, I'm excited to welcome back my friend Sheldon Sonnenberg to Escaping Ordinary. Sheldon is a fitness enthusiast, low back pain specialist, and healthcare entrepreneur who is serious about helping others take ownership of their health and fitness for optimum health. When he was with me last, he had introduced the idea of becoming the CEO of your own health. We didn't have much time then, but he's back today to dig deeper and for me to kind of pull out of him exactly what he means by how to become the CEO of your own health. Welcome back, Sheldon, to Escaping Ordinary. Please let us know a little bit about you and how you came up with the idea of becoming the CEO to your own health.
Thank you so much for having me back. And, I'll kind of hit just highlights from last time. But again, becoming the CEO of our own health is really just taking ownership from the understanding of what it takes to be healthy. Because, it's kind of funny in a way, but always, clients and stuff will come in and they're like, oh, I'm healthy, I'm fine. In reality, just internally, there's a lot going on. And, growing up, a lot of people are just never really exposed to education-wise what true health is. Plus, they've been taught old principles. And so now that we're starting to see the back end, especially in healthcare with certain disease conditions, health issues, surgeries, a lot of times it's not until we see someone that's, they're in an advanced state. So there's a lot of work to be done and it can be quite expensive. So, for me, like breaking it down and trying to get someone on a good path is, kind of, I call it like dissecting the body and just kind of attacking it from all different angles, because I think that's really the best way. You're not going to treat everyone the same, but there are a lot of principles and strategies that I think we can go in there and really help people understand. And so I've kind of taken an approach of a little bit of combination from the physical standpoint, just obviously being that, physical therapist, performance coach, and, what that looks like from a physical standpoint. Partly also from a mental standpoint, how we, combine, because I think a big part of when you look at a lot of health issues, you have to relate with the nervous system and how that connects with the brain. And so mentally, how we think there. And then also kind of bringing it, full spectrum with just in general, what are we doing from an external standpoint? So internal and external. So I just, if I got time here, I can break it down.
Oh, absolutely. We've got all the time you want.
And give you some takes on it. But so partly was because a lot of times, it starts with the person coming in, and that's where I think over time I've gotten really good at just being able to kind of look over, and it's kind of like when you bring something to someone and we're sitting there, we're struggling, we can't figure out the answer, and all of a sudden they just point, and you're like, oh, it's right there. And they see something different than we see. And so I think it's kind of a gift I've been given now to really take an overall big picture and say, okay, this person has been struggling with this health issue, or they're on this medication or injury or whatnot. Like, where do you start? And I think that's, when we have clients come in and we look at their sheet and they have 20 to 30 different medications, 40 different diagnoses that they've been given from the doctor, a lengthy history of all these x-rays, MRIs, or imaging scans, and probably years of different health issues. And then they look at me and they're like, can you help me? Trying to, after doing this now for 13 years and trying to sit there and, then and they want to answer right then. I'm like, it was very stressful. I'll be honest with you, like starting out. But now it's I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's become a lot more clear on where do you start. And for me, I had to always, again, kind of address it from that person, more in detail. But if you want kind of an overall perspective of what that looks like, we'll just start, let's just say, with the physical standpoint. And so, because there's a lot of connection of the way our body moves to how healthy we are in general, meaning I start usually with a pretty standard mobility program, because I think that kind of sets up the they call it like the core, the foundation of setting someone up for success. And, a lot of chiropractors follow the same philosophy of how do we get that proper alignment or get things back in alignment. It's not the same thing with with our house. If our foundation of a house is leaning, then the house leans with it. So things are offset. So we work on really getting the body back moving like it should. Once you get the mobility of the joints and things open back up, you'll start to see, it's kind of like taking things and reversing it, and you start to see things click really quick. And so we're able to start connecting the nervous system back to the body. We get joints back in alignment, so all of a sudden there's less pain. The muscles and tendons line back up. They start doing what they should do. So typically, if you fix the main problem, and you probably know where this is coming from, but if you knock down that one big domino, you can knock down the rest. Well, that was honestly the approach I took with this, and it really helped because once I knew, okay, after hearing all these issues going on with people, I was like, if I could just find the one main thing, and then from there everything's a lot easier. So I did that. So worked on the mobility
everything builds on each other, doesn't it?
It does, and it's such a ladder effect because it's exponential. If you've ever heard or read the book Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, it's kind of the same concept as things keep adding up. It can either go good or bad. And the speed of it too. So that affected, the second part, which was the flexibility of their muscles. Because if they were out of position, the joints were locked up, then everything they got tense. The muscles got tense. Their flexibility lowered because they're got an overexcited nervous system. And then all of a sudden, they were facing issues with more pain, tightness, pulling out of position. Just different stuff as far as lack of flexibility. So more injuries were occurring. And then that led to the third phase of it affected their strength. So they didn't have the strength to perform certain movements or avoid injury. And then the last part was their balance, and it really started to lose balance. So it's kind of like a, just domino
snowball,
effect. So that was really looking at it from the physical standpoint.
I would assume those people, you would have a lot of depression that you're dealing with, because if they're not able to do things and they're frustrated, that's got to add to a lot of depression. And that's a whole nother mental area you have to deal with, isn't it?
That was where we kind of crossed over from the physical to the mental, because once the physical part was less, like they weren't basically, and I say they as far as whoever the person is that's suffering, whenever someone limits the amount of movement that their body has, you store in a couple different things. You have the less toxins moving throughout the body that can get out, because there's 7 ways our body can excrete toxins, whether it's our lungs, liver, lymphatic system, blood, kidney, skin. If we're not constantly moving, it's just things get stored up and they get locked up in our joints, and the toxins add up over the years. And then that's when you start to see a lot of different disease conditions and or like brain issues such as Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, because you get a lot of these toxins that add up in the body over the years. Secondly, if we're not moving and these toxins add up, it affects other issues such as a person's mood, and then you start going into acuity, like for example, their vision may be affecting their hearing, their balance, also the way they sleep, their joint pain, inflammation. So these are what I call, and I'll break it down more later on into my program, but it goes more in depth on those are just symptoms, and not to say that to negate them or not, consider them as an issue. But if you think about this, when people go to the doctor, they're usually going for symptoms. It's for anxiety, depression, stress, joint pain, inflammation, swelling. So these are all just side effects of something that's
the core problem.
Exactly. And so that's where I was like, if we can kind of get in, again, it's never really like a straightforward answer, but I think if someone can get a proactive approach and really know how this works, maybe they can have a better understanding of what to do and how to address it.
Yeah, kind of adapt it specifically to themselves at that point.
Yes.
Wow.
And then that was where, I told them, it's like, that's kind of looking at it from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint. Of course, there's a lot more on top, you can go on that, but the connection of the two, because what ends up happening is all of a sudden, exteriorly, you start to see different, a person's body may start to show the features of it too, as far as, maybe their skin, starts, a lot of times people they don't see the signs and symptoms, but our body starts giving us signs and symptoms over the years. Usually it's internally, and it's a feeling that starts to push its way outward. And so there's a lot of different signs and symptoms that people kind of miss along the way, because they can be subtle. And there's a few phases. I wrapped it into 4 phases, but the first one was having a very subtle phase, and it could be something as far as lack of self-confidence, lack of self-esteem, just kind of having that, I would say the something that's not you associate this with everyone in general. So that's kind of phase one, where it's very subtle. The second phase was where you start to see symptoms, meaning anxiety, depression, stress, swelling, pain, hard time sleeping. The third one at phase three is where they start to get into the point where internally they're really having issues, and usually it's stomach ulcers. And the reason that is because a lot of the medications people start taking. So you start to see the effects of the medicines because they're taking stuff because of the symptoms. And then you have the internal system, usually which presents into the intestines. You start getting stomach ulcers or different health issues within the gut. And that leads to more medications, which, causes more side effects.
Yeah.
And from those medicines, and this is very straight on, and a lot of clients will come in and tell me this, and they have no clue why, but their pain actually increases because the medication and the issues of them taking a lot of medicines basically causes an inflammatory process of their nervous system and starts damaging their nerves. And so that leads to long-term effects, which is phase four, where that person ends up having a certain disease, a certain health issue, and or having to have surgery. And then that's when they start to lose their eyesight, as far as their vision, their hearing starts to go, because they start to have it starts breaking down the organs. And then, the last one, of course, is a really severe disease to death. So it's very subtle, but it's been very straight on. And this is going to, again, kind of just taking signs and symptoms and then also diagnoses and then wrapping it all together from a physical and a workout standpoint and trying to bring this together from all the different settings that I've worked in. And so that was my way of saying, okay, I can see it pretty clear. And, then you have to, of course, add in some other, I would say, like filters of, well, this is going on because of this. And so can't, like I said, but if you did kind of wrap it together and say, this is pretty spot on, after a while, numbers don't lie. And it's a very strong system. And that's what I was thinking is if I could go back and take everything I've learned and experienced in all the different settings from all different age groups, all different health issues that I've worked with, whether they were physical and or disease condition, because after a while, you start to relate the same topics. And because there's a lot of crossover, you can pretty much be consistent and say, hey, if they learned this at a younger age, they became a CEO, took ownership of their health, then they'd have a lot, either empower themselves to make a decision earlier on in life to say, hey, this isn't right, or better steps to take that wouldn't lead to such the severe side effects that they're experiencing now.
Have you done anything with children, like working with them?
Not as much. The only experience I've had with children and young kids, I would say like junior high and younger, or younger than junior high, has either been in the trauma area and or a certain disease condition. So from then, just because the settings I was placed in was either more like youth as far as performance.
Right.
But I would say it's pretty, from hearing a lot of, working with a lot of colleagues and also just in different areas too, it's the same concepts. The only thing I think you would change on that when you look at it from a physical standpoint is depending on how old that person, and then again, you have some variability of male versus female because the growth stages at the younger. It is, when you look at it from a physical standpoint, they're still on that developmental stage. And so it's hard to say, because everyone has such different, especially now when they're exposed to certain foods, it may expedite their growth stage and or limit it in different areas. And so that's going to be a little bit more tricky, but you still stick with the same principles and say, okay, from a physical standpoint for a younger kid, this still applies. From a mental standpoint, this still applies, because our bodies are all, they're just, the only factor we're putting in is aging, exposure, as far as like what they've been exposed to over time. So even though they do go through those milestones and those different time periods as they age, we can still have a good, clear understanding of saying this is where they should start and why they should start there. And so I thought it was pretty neat in a way, like saying, okay, now we do have a game plan for no matter what age group they're in. It's still, if they need more like medical attention, let's just say that if that's the case, then that's when they maybe go to a certain person that's more of an expert in that field.
Well, it's just the education system for knowing anything about this, whether you're an adult or a kid. And I'm thinking if it's so important, it'd be good to have something that the children could learn right from the beginning and probably teach their parents as they go.
Well, that was honestly one of the motivations for going into, I guess, the programs I did growing up, because there's a lot of stuff you can't blame other people. If we didn't know this growing up. It's like, why? I
Yeah.
can't blame them that, and there's a lot of detail into this. You're never gonna expect
And
anyone to
everything
know.
changes too. I mean, what's bad for you now ends up being like the best thing for you. And you
Yeah.
shouldn't eat eggs, and now you should eat eggs, or you shouldn't eat butter, and now you should eat. I mean, it's like
I would say and this is going to be exciting because I was just on a call with a guy the other day for what we're about to launch in the near future for youth. And this is huge because I think that was, he told me this, he's like, this is, he goes, this is something that he was excited about it too. He goes like, this is going to be a big project, and probably he goes so big that he goes, people won't think we'll be able to accomplish this, but I knew where he was coming from because I remember at a younger age, just thinking about, wow, if I could understand some of this, going forward. But when we were young, we only have so much resources. That when I grew up on West Texas in a farm, I was like, I didn't have internet and the stuff that you have today, like to learn all this.
Yeah.
But I think yes, now to answer that question, kind of wrap it back for stuff for youth is going to be huge. And then not only just for all the health issues and preventative that people are experiencing today, but even if you look at it from a performance standpoint, the expectations are really high. Even now, like going into NCAA, where a lot of college kids may be getting paid to play sports. And so times are shifting, and we definitely have to keep up with the times because things are moving fast.
Yep, that's very true. It just seems like if you can make stuff fun for kids to do, heck, if you do that for adults, if it's a little bit fun, we'll probably do it more than if it looks like it's a drudge. So, how do you overcome that? Is that something that you address as well?
Yes. So with adults, and that's where, it's just kind of finding their pain points. So, for every problem, there's a solution, meaning what is the real reason that they're coming to us for? And let's just say, for example, most adults, when they come in low back pain, the most common thing they tell me is, it's keeping them from being physically active, meaning maybe they want to go to the beach and not just so much like lay around at the beach, but walk,
Right.
Maybe they want to travel because now they've spent all these years working so hard and they want to go take all these trips because they have the time, but they can't because they're in so much pain or maybe an injury. And then the third one that's probably the most common is they want to be able to pick up their grandkids and they can't because it hurts too bad, or they can't go play with them because
That's
of
a
the pain.
heartbreak. Yeah.
And so I think that's really, that's the key to learning how to resonate with them and then relate with them of because for me, you always have to find why would someone change the situation that they're doing to the new situation. So you have to attach their desire to that end result somehow. And so if you figure out what matters most to them, then they can overcome, okay, these exercises may be a little bit boring. Maybe it's not quite as fun, or maybe it's not normal, because a majority of people, especially when we look into the geriatric or the older population, you think back, none of this was normal for them. Even some of the stuff we're doing today wasn't normal 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so every year, every decade, things are exponentially changing quick, and how we take care of ourselves and expectations. And so with that being said, then you're thinking, okay, I have to know where they come from. What kind of environment do they grow up in? Were they ever educated on this, or was it ever part of life? And honestly, a majority of them, they never had exercised either in their life. They said they hadn't exercised, and I think they just meant like, they're not in a constant routine of going to the gym. Now they probably maybe had walked or worked. Maybe they worked on a farm, or they did physical activity, and I can associate that with exercise because they were still doing the motions and getting their heart rate up, cardio. But it's trying to figure out, okay, if I'm going to take this person that's never done this before, and it is a little bit difficult, and the older we get, a little bit more stubborn we are. So we have to figure out, like, okay, how am I going to shift this person's mindset to believe in what I'm telling them is going to be the best path for them? And so then if I can figure out, okay, they want to play golf. They don't want to just play golf. They want to hit the ball farther than their friend does and not hurt their back. And, maybe they want to play with their grandkids, or maybe they want to go on a road trip and they want to drive across the state or the country. And so I've got to figure out, and so I've gotten really good about this, but so I get, we get into good conversations, and we kind of subtly, I figure out like what means the most to them. And a lot of times it takes being a good listener. And I think that's one thing I've always had, is just being a good listener. So I can sit there and I can ask a few questions, and then I can just let them talk. And I think that's really the main thing, is because they never have been given a chance to talk. And when you let someone talk, they end up telling you what they really want.
It's the old-fashioned country doctor back when, God, even before I was, where the doctors actually had time to sit, have a cup of coffee, listen to what they're doing, be able to figure things out and point them in the right direction.
Oh yeah.
And today they're back-to-back 10-minute apart appointments. They've got 6 people in different rooms and they just bop one to the other.
That's glad you brought that up, because I've worked with a lot of either in the physical therapy or different therapists in different areas, and it's kind of funny after a while, but they would always get frustrated, and they would have and sometimes it was a cultural thing, but maybe where they grew up in a certain state, just their personality, but they'd always get frustrated and they're like, I can't handle that person, I can't work with that client. You know, they're irritated. And I was like, well, for me, it's always kind of like, okay, well, it doesn't do any good to, go in there and, you can't not knock heads or butt heads, it's
Right.
just listening to them, because they've come at it from a perspective of, like you said, either 10 minutes, 5 minutes here. So no one's ever listening to their problems and or addressing their concerns. So if you keep trying to tell them to do something and not really listening to basically what their problem is, you have to first figure out what their goal is, and versus us just keep telling them what to do. And so I think that's a big key right there, is just kind of knowing how to relate with that person, let them, ask them a few questions, figure out what matters most to them, and then they'll do what you want. And so that became really easy. I learned that right away in the hospital, because when you're dealing with people that are sick, that are in a lot of pain, they're frustrated, and then they would have medical people coming in and out just like this. And it was life-threatening stuff. It could have been strokes, it could have been cancer, ICU, whatever, what unit they were on. And they're drugged, on different drugs or medications and out of it. And then the family's frustrated. It's just a very intense environment. So they're not, going in there as a therapist. And then, some people are like, I can't handle that person. They're that patient. They're just irritated. They're mean. And I was like, don't worry, I got this. And so what I do is just, literally I'd go in there and I'd just ask them a few questions to basically figure out what they're trying to get out of it, or, what was their main concern, what was not being addressed. And then once you found that out, then they were open to working with you. And so that was kind of the same thing moving forward into the maybe outpatient setting or with athletes, because it's always and then it just comes down to basic communication.
Just being a human, being able to
Yes.
listen and care enough to listen to somebody.
So that was, I would say, the main thing of trying to get someone to take action and figure out, like, how are they going to, go from their mindset of being stuck, and how am I going to be able to make that little tweak or that little shift? And it wasn't so much on my part as on their end. And so that was, I think it kind of gave me that confidence of saying I can do this, because, I'm not having to be super skilled or even though it does help to obviously know what you're doing.
Sure.
But
because you can create injury too. I mean, if you do things the wrong way.
And not even saying like I didn't mean it from that way of being skilled, but skilled at trying to make that person do something. So if that makes sense. And I worded it wrong, but basically we don't have to be experts at trying to get into the psychology of why someone will or will not do it. I think it's just being, like you said, being human and figuring out what their concerns are, what their problems are that we can address and go in there and fix it.
Nobody likes to be told what to do. They want to at least believe that they're making that decision, even if you're guiding them through it. But it's funny though, because when I was in grammar school, Kennedy was president, and he had this big push about sports in the schools, and gym was a major part of our daily routine. And I think that sort of just drifted away after years. It just didn't become as important. And there's so much to learn. I guess maybe that's part of it. But
I'm not, and honestly, I'm really not sure why that change occurred as far as physical activity, other than the technology. So if you look back and think on history, and it's kind of funny you brought up Kennedy, because I was watching a video last night on this, and his whole talk was about communication and how we need to be better communicators, and as far as how we're coming across. And he's very open with it. If there's any issues going on in the world that he can address himself, he wants to be as open to the public as possible. So I think looking back, and we always have to think back, like, why are we doing today what we're doing? What happened before us that caused us to take the steps we're doing now. And so you look at the Industrial Revolution, and you look at how things started to pick up pace, the speed of it, and then you get into the late 1900s and then the technology era, you start to see, okay, now we have, I think, and this is my perspective, is you have a society that's trying to keep up with the demands and the strength of technology, knowing that we can't beat machines. Like technology is going to, but the advances in technology has put more pressure on people to understand how it works and or the shift in how we learn, but also the amount of possibilities that are out there. So all of a sudden you have this increased amount of possibilities of the way we do things, the different types of jobs and or the way we learn to now there's more variety in the education system. So now the demands are higher and you're going to have that start to trickle back down to where you have more pressure on the teachers to and probably just over the years you've noticed this, but we always, it seems like every year we have so much more expectations to keep up with
That's
stuff
true.
or the
Yeah.
ever-changing world. And so there was constantly, at least for me growing up, it seemed like, and then looking back, people going through, that were going through school after I'd finished and all the expectations, and the parents were struggling because parents are sitting here trying to figure out how to help their kids with their homework, and try to keep up with what all the kids are having to do. And so the expectations were so much higher that I think they kind of phased out the physical point. And it was just more of I think a lack of true understanding of a person as a whole, in the education system
You have
of
to
deciding, hey.
Yeah, you have to keep the factory working in order to be able to have the things processed in it.
They focus so much on the mental part that they forgot about the physical part. And so I think that was the missing link there. And then of course now we're seeing a lot of side effects from that. And so it's a big movement, and I'm excited to be part of it. And that was the whole thing with this, was kind of like diving back in and re-evaluating the healthcare, the education system, and starting, I think you're going to see, especially now with everything that's going on and moving forward, we're going to have a very big shift, not only how we learn, a lot more virtual versus just being in person, even though there'll be a lot of in-person events, but a lot more exposure and a lot more education on why someone should take care of themselves and be healthier, to have that healthier lifestyle long term.
Right.
But I think it'll start popping back up as in the youth, and be like, I always feel like it's kind of a full circle. Like you get to a point where you have so much, so many things going wrong, and then finally you're like, okay, I'm tired of butting heads or beating my head against the wall, and got to reevaluate and be like, okay, well, there's the problem. It's always like chasing the problem. And so finally we're like, okay, we got to go back, look back and say, this is a big problem. This is a big issue. A lot of people are having a lot of health issues at younger ages. They're relying on medications way too much. What are we not fixing?
Yeah, that's like, I've got so many questions, and I'm not sure which direction to go, because it's pretty encompassing. Why don't we make it? Would you mind coming back again?
Oh yeah, no, I'd love to come back, and we can always readdress, and you may even during that time think of some more questions that.
Oh, I've got
relevant.
a bunch. I actually still have some in front of me, but maybe we can come back and revisit them.
Perfect.
In the meantime, moving forward, is that what you called it? The move. What is the movement? Is there like a movement name?
I don't think there's a movement name. I feel like there's a forward movement.
Okay, well, maybe that's the name it should be.
Of just people starting to step up, and I think it's just partly too of now that we've gotten a little bit of a break to kind of sit back, reevaluate our health time of like, okay, are we spending time where we need to be? Is our life going out how it should be? I think a lot more people are starting to really think, and which we're meant to think. It is easy when we get so caught up in work and we get in our habit set, we kind of push things aside. But now I think there's now a more proactive approach from, especially coordinating with a lot of people in the healthcare profession and seeing what the changes are about to come, and just hearing the talks on some of these Zooms or just different meetings that I've been in lately. There's going to be some huge changes in the healthcare industry, and as crazy as it sounds, it's going to be another what they call another revolution, meaning like just the way things are done. And I think it'll be for the better, but it kind of goes both ways. For every problem there's a solution, but also for every solution there's a problem.
Another problem. Yeah.
So who knows? We'll find out, and it'll probably be.
We're blessed to live in a huge world that we now have access to, and with your Zoom calls and everything else, I'm sure you're talking to people on the other side of the world in them as well. And you've traveled a lot, especially just recently. So maybe we can talk about. Do you see differences? Here I go off on another tangent here, but do you see differences in the way people or similarities in the same struggles that people have today here as opposed to Israel and
Egypt, and then went to Israel. Yes, there's a lot of huge difference, and we can always definitely dive into those more later. One of the groups I'm working with right now is in Africa, and that's my next project, and actually what my focus is on. I've got a group over there I'm working with. The average expectancy of life is in Nigeria is about 55, and Ghana I think is about 60. So it depends on where that person's at, but they're some of the biggest hearted people that you ever meet culture wise, and just very enthusiastic entrepreneurs, motivated. And it's great, but and that's not just them. There's other countries too. And I always tell people, it's like once you start traveling, you start to realize all the stuff you take for granted living in the U.S. But
that's so true. I think the best things a parent can do is take their child to another country so that when they come back, they can appreciate what they really have here. So
definitely.
That's a whole nother subject we have to come back and talk about.
Well, the good thing is you won't run out of topics to talk about. And knowing that it's always an ever-changing platform or era or revolution, there's always going to be something else to talk about.
That's true.
I will leave it with this. I think the biggest thing is to give people motivation and also just something to think about is finding sometimes I call it, it's like finding your new normal, because a lot of times people get really frustrated or they kind of get stuck and they're like, well, you always hear the same thing. It's like, that's the way we've always done it. And so I always try to tell them, like, because this was my biggest struggle growing up, was I thought 100% everyone did everything like I did. And then, you know how it is. I lived out in the country. I couldn't figure it out. So for so many years, just traveling and then being around different people, I was like, it was so frustrating, because I was like, this was probably like a 5-year period or longer, where things were really, when I started traveling and being exposed, it was really frustrating to me, because I was like, why are they thinking that way? Why are they doing that way? And then before I knew it, it's like you start to see the variety in people, the personalities, where they grew up, the cultures, and you really understand why what's going on today. And so from a health perspective, it's and then just anything in life, really, I think it's trying to help people find a new normal, because a lot of times when they're exposed to something new, a piece of information that's new, versus just putting their hands up and saying, no, that doesn't make sense. I think it's kind of one of those things you always have to provide a couple of questions, and then relate it to your values, and then also from a common sense standpoint, and then take a couple of stabs at it to see if it resonates somewhere. Because I think a lot of times it's so easy for us to throw up our hands, and if it's not something that we've been exposed to or that's part of our normal, then we end up kind of pushing it away and saying that won't work or that's not right, and then that's I think a lot of times that big conflict that we have that keeps us from getting the result we're wanting. So from a health standpoint, I think that's a huge thing, because that's for a lot of people I've learned over the years, and just the struggles that they've had and where they get that conflict is they've constantly kept that same mindset, that same routine that they've always done, and they're not open to change.
Yeah, and that's in everything in life. Unfortunately, it's that same mindset issue. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I look forward to having you back and exploring more little avenues we can go off and play in.
No, this would be awesome. I really appreciate it.
Okay, why don't you tell people how they can reach you, and then I'll put your information in the show notes.
Thank you, for sure. So most of my right now is on Facebook, and I can go in there and catch me there, and there's my information on there. If they want to dive in a little bit deeper, they can go to Unlocked Move, UNLOCKED Unlocked Move, and get more information on what kind of the philosophy of being unlocked and becoming the CEO of their own health, and understanding what areas in our life are keeping us from moving forward and keeping us in that locked position that's making us struggle, put it that way, of empowering ourselves and taking that little extra step to get away from that push to that conflict that we've always kind of thought was our normal. But now what can be our new normal, and what give people hope of what's out there that they can plug into, and kind of just at least empower themselves to have a better understanding of how their body works.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Thanks so much for listening to this show. It's been great to have you here. And if you liked what you heard, please hit the subscribe button now, like, share, and leave a rave review below. It would be most appreciated. And don't forget to join us next week. I can't wait to introduce you to my next guest. While you're at it, head over to Facebook and join the Escaping Ordinary group. You'll find the link in the episode notes. Once you're there, you'll be able to interact with me and like-minded entrepreneurs also looking to escape ordinary. Oh, and when you join the group, you'll get a special gift designed especially for those escaping their ordinary. In the meantime, be looking for those precious gems of inspiration all around you when you're traveling the world or just going around the corner, and start filling your treasure chest of insights.